Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlimited. Brad and I are continuing our top 100 games of all time. We are in, was this the third? Is this the
Third
third?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
third. Well, I know it's the third. I meant the third. Oh, like we're done with the first third of
Oh, gotcha.
the top 100, which is 80 through 71. And let's see. Like last time, I was talking about some fun stats that I had pulled over the past 5 years. Um, and 20, so I did 2024, 23, and now 22. And in 2022, I had 38 that rose compared to the 37 and 35, 39 that fell compared to 42 and 40, 20 new ones compared to 18 and 24, and four that stayed the same. Uh, so more that rose that year, and then 39 competitive cooperative to 62 competitive,
There you go.
which definitely like comparing 2022 to 24 has basically completely flopped or swapped,
Right.
which is just kind of interesting. I think another thing that would be more interesting to find out is how many games I no longer own as time has gone on.
Uh-huh.
Um, versus how many games I have kept owning over the years. But there's some fun little
Yeah.
stats for you.
This segment of 10 for me is one of the more interesting ones because I have zero that fell.
Oh, wow.
So five of them rose and five are new.
Oh, okay. That is a
So
very interesting
yeah, so it's
segment.
kind of a interesting set of 10 games I have here.
Yeah, that's gonna be exciting. Mine is kind of more of the norm. I have one, two, three, four, five that fell, three that rose, and two that are new. So that's kind of what's more expecting. But I mean, let's go ahead and start talking about some games, which is my number 80. And my number 80 is the first one that fell last year. It was 44, and it was new last year, so nothing in 2022. And this is more of I just haven't had a chance to play it, nor have I had a chance to play its expansions, even though Board and Dice have done a tremendous amount of supporting this game. I just have not gone out of my way to get it, and that is Nucleum. Nucleum is one of their, I think, best games that they have made, in a very long time. I mean, Simon or Simone Luciani and David Turczi are just phenomenal designers. And what was more impressive on this game was actually how amazing its solo variant was that I
Yeah.
tested out because the everything you're doing in this game is amazing to try and get just some AI bot to kind of do the same thing. But this is, I think a lot of people compare this to has a lot of brass in it,
Mhm.
and I mean kind of a little bit of Ticket to Ride. You're making railroads, but you're essentially putting buildings in various locations, and building railways to that to connect. Whoops. But the worker placement element of kind of controlling these railroads and then doing a bunch of different building placement in the various cities to score your victory points is just done in a extremely well done way. Whenever you're trying to like the concept of networks in this is probably the biggest hurdle to understand when you're playing. Um, because you kind of need to be able to make a path with resources. And you always can draw a path to where coal is, but eventually coal runs out. So you want to kind of have or nuclear power plants to help fund your buildings that you need to build. Um, that kind of economy, I think this works a lot better for me than Brass does because with Brass, it felt like here's the stuff, and yet here's the stuff that I want to use to do my stuff, but then people can take that from you. And even though you get rewarded, and sometimes even it's a bigger benefit for someone to use whatever your resources are, it never feels good, at least to me. It's like I want to use my stuff. Like, yeah, you gave me something, but I'd rather I was planning to use that for something else. And this doesn't have really anything like that except for like, oh, you made coal more expensive for me. Um, but the way that you're actually picking action tiles is almost like a domino style. All your actions have a top and a bottom side, and you're placing those actions on top of your board, and then you're rewarded for that because you have tracks going up to potentially give you victory points, but you only get rewarded for how far those tracks have gone up. Uh, Even though you've played a bunch of actions. So as the game goes on, you want to have those further and play more actions before you reset. So there's a lot going on in this game. It's probably one of the more complicated games that I still own. And I haven't had a chance to try Australia yet, but I will get to that eventually. Have you played this one?
I've not.
Okay.
I've thought about picking it up a couple times here and there, but just never pulled the trigger.
Yeah. I think you would really like it, especially if you're leaning more in that the heavier Euros.
Mhm. Well, because I
I
like
think
brass a lot, so I mean,
gotcha.
you know,
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if you did not like this. So
yeah.
that's my number 80, Nucleum.
All right. My number 80 is a new one to my list. And this was one that I saw, oh, it's been a while back. I noticed it was uh people were started talking about it more, and then you picked up a copy of it, I believe at Gen Con. And I love asymmetric games. So but I haven't played a whole lot of deduction games. And this one is Pagan Fate
Oh,
of Roanoke. Um,
I'm like deduction asymmetric. What
right,
is he
right.
talking about?
So this was one I was intrigued by, just because I haven't played a ton of deduction games over the time. I've played like Battlestar mostly. There's been a little bit of deduction kind of stuff in a few other games, like, but it wasn't the major part. Um, but this one, you either take the side of the witches or the hunters, and you're completely playing different styles of games from that point on. But um, if you're the witch, you there's those however many 9 villagers out there. Yeah, there's like 9 villagers that'll be out there, and at the beginning of the game, you get to figure out which one of those is you. So then you are trying to play cards on your turn um, to try to collect enough secrets to then turn them into rituals. And there's a certain number of rituals you need to complete, and that's how you win the game. The hunters on the other side are a little more straightforward. They're going to be the ones that they're putting out like clue tokens and stuff like that on those deals, and they're trying to deduce which one you are. So there's that whole cat and mouse thing of when you're every time we've played this, we've tried throwing each other off the scent by putting secrets in different places, and
Mhm.
it's really, and then there's also like, shoot, I can't remember what they call the stupid things up here, but
Oh, rituals. I
yeah,
think no, rituals are what's down at the bottom. Those
right.
are
Yeah, I can't think of the name of them
I
right
can't
now,
think of it either.
but
I
they're
mean,
things that,
they're like the events.
yeah, yeah. So those things can really alter a lot of stuff, but you can also, as the hunters, you're gaining allies into your stable that have all these different powers that help you in doing what you want to do.
Mhm.
Um, this is just it's a awesome little game, and it's a small box game, but there's a lot of crap in it, and especially if you get the expansion stuff. There's a bunch of little expansions. This being a first time designer game is crazy. I was looking on BGG earlier, and this was actually the prototype for this won Danish Design Award, and that's how it kind of got
Wow.
for best show in 2018. And
Okay.
then that's kind of how it took off from there.
Because
Um,
it was crowdfunded on Kickstarter.
right, right. So,
And because I have the Worm Gold edition, I had the Capstone games, but then someone was selling like a copy of like the Worm Gold with all the expansions.
mhm.
So that's what I picked up.
Well, the expansions
Again,
are slowly coming out. Like I picked up the
yeah.
newest one that came in the miniature market,
Yeah.
a little
Which
bit and
is
stuff.
very
But
cool, but it's what's more interesting is that this is a deck constructor, so
Mhm.
you can like design your deck to play against one another. And I mean, still to this day, I don't know which side I prefer. Like, I
I
really like how both sides play for different
yeah,
reasons.
I do too. My style of play generally leans more towards the witches side because I like to
Yeah,
be the hidden person, but then I enjoy playing the other side just almost just as much. So
right, right.
because
I
you can
feel
take
like,
that shot in the dark as a hunter and just guess correctly if it
yeah,
hit down to a couple, you know.
yeah, but and it's funny because whenever I was talking to Capstone, I was asking about this game, and the way they made it sound was that you could take a shot in the dark and kill a witch and win. And I was like, oh, well, that just seems like it would be a shitty game because you could if you could just win randomly like that. But it takes a lot of build up to be able to even kill someone. So if they are just really honing in on who you are as the witch, you have a lot of ways to kind of combat that. Uh, but you can only do so much because you're not taking turns. Like, oh, you do an action, I do an action. It's I have to sit there and watch you, and if you can do a really awesome combo and get everything you need and execute them, then it's like, well, yep, that was me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it was a. I mean, I was expecting decent things, but because of hearing it, but then it exceeded those expectations too.
right.
And I don't have a game like this in my collection, like a deduction thing. So this is one that um, I want to try to show Amy and kind of get, you know, see how she does with deduction and stuff, and
Gotcha. Yeah, I
so
was
she can
actually about
find new
to
ways to whip
ask.
my, so she can find new ways to whip my ass.
Outside of the bedroom.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was gonna ask if you had played this with your wife yet.
not yet.
Yeah, let me know what she thinks. I'm very curious.
Yeah, because if this one goes over well, I want to get the other one, the Mantis Falls
Oh,
too,
yeah.
because it's a
Yeah.
with being two players and stuff like that. But
Yeah, that one would be more interesting because Mantis Falls can be cooperative if you
gotcha.
figure out that you're both,
Oh, okay.
not an assassin.
Right.
Um, but you don't really know that the entire game. Um,
Gotcha.
all right, yeah, good pick.
Mm,
Good pick. My number 89, Rose. It was 92
79.
last year.
70.
79. My number 80. No, no, we're going back. I want to talk about Anachrony again. Um, my number 79, Rose, it was 92 last year and 87 the year before. And I don't know why. I think as I was ranking these games again, I was just reminded of how thematic this game is and how it's such a super solid cooperative game. And that is
Mm,
Subterra, and specifically Subterra 1, even though I do own both. Somehow I was actually able to get my copy of Subterra 2, and Subterra 2 is good. Um, I just think that this one evokes a better atmosphere. It gives that horrible spelunking vibes. Or if you've ever seen The Descent, that horror movie, it's like
yep.
imagine that as a board game. And even though this game is not high quality or high production, just the actions you're taking and the fact that spelunking is a very real thing, you can just picture yourself in that scenario. Um, Whenever you're walking with your meeples from area to area, there's a cave in or there's like tight squeezes that you have to get through, and then you have to wade through water that all of a sudden starts rising out of nowhere. It's just like, yep, you know what? I think I would have rather done anything else. Like you couldn't pay me enough to do anything like this. I have zero interest in doing anything spelunking because my luck, the descent would actually happen. I
Right.
would get I'd get stabbed in the neck by my friend and then left to die, while some weird albino creatures just devoured me. Um, but this is kind of your standard action selection game. You have so many action points to spend to do actions. You have a specific character that, like the bodyguard, has more health than everyone. The medic can heal people. The So every character is good at doing something.
Right.
And like a standard cooperative game, everything starts going well until it doesn't. And then people start going down, and it's like, oh God, we need to go get them back. That's our only medic. Like, we need to go get them. But their dumbass wandered off, and now it's a pain to go get them.
Yep.
Um, and I just love the tile flipping, like the way that the cave expands. You're gonna have just a different experience. There's a ton of expansions for this game that gives you different objectives depending on which one you want to do. Normally, it's find the exit, but there's ones where you all have demolition charges and you're trying to blow out the support pillars. And you know that the exit is at like the bottom fourth of the stack, so it might not be at the very bottom, but it could very well be. It just plays very smooth, and I mean it's a really good like horror game without it being gruesome in any way. Um, so if you're looking for I like this one a lot more than. Did you ever play or see the Night Cage?
I have seen it. I've never
Yeah,
played it.
the Night Cage's overall theme is really cool, and it like, but I remember when they were showing that to me at Gen Con one year, I was like, yeah, I have some Terra at home, so I think I'm good. And the Night Cage came off as extremely random and was kind of like one of those games you go in expecting to lose just because of the randomness. Here, I feel like you have some agency along with the randomness to kind of be like, oh, didn't expect that. But here, like, we have an exterminator who can deal with these monster nests. And that I like a lot more. So if you're looking for a super solid, simple cooperative game that has a ton of theme, even though this doesn't look like it would, I highly recommend Subterra.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. I like playing this one solo, even like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just because you pick a few characters and play it, and it's pretty simple to manage.
Yeah. And Subterra 2 has a more Indiana Jones vibe because you're going in and you're trying to get a certain number of keys to unlock and get this golden idol and get back out. And there's a timer for it that eventually the tiles start flipping as they're filling with lava.
Gotcha.
So, but similar gameplay, it just doesn't have the same kind of vibe.
Nope, that's a good one. Good one, good one. All right. My number 79 was 86 last year, so it's risen just a tad bit. It was higher on my list over the last several years, but it's kind of fallen off because I wasn't playing it. And then I played it once this past year, and it reminded me of how solid of a game it is. And that is Viticulture
Nice.
Essential Edition. Um, this one, I mean, it's the uh, classic worker placement. This was kind of one of the first ones that Stonemaier really did that kind of really set up everything else. This was kind of their
Mhm.
evergreen that they made, and even if you had the one of those original versions that came in the damn wine crate and all that stuff, um,
Oh, yeah.
but pretty much what you're doing in this one is you're just taking taking control like you're a family and you are trying to make wine. So you are the interesting thing with this is the seasons aspect of it, um, because you only have X number of workers per round that you're going to be able to put down. So you have to decide if you're going to use them early, and then you won't have stuff at the end to like make the wine and stuff like that. There's different options in each of the sections. So you may want to hold off a little bit and start, focus your workers more on, later on in the year.
Hmm.
Um, what was cool about this, the essential editions, is it combined. It took a lot of the stuff from the Tuscany game and put it in with this one too. That kind of made it the best way. So it added that other season, um, added a bunch of the modules from Tuscany that made this work well. The solo of this is pretty solid. I mean, I used to love the solo of this, and it's kind of other games have come out and done it better. So
Oh, I
that's why
see.
it kind of slid just a little bit. But I did play it with 4 players the last time, and it was fun. But it just has that neat little puzzle of where you're, getting the different ingredients for your wine, and you're putting them on your player board, and then you know, when you get to that last section of this year, you can make it and sell it and do all this different stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but it's just a really solid game. Like I haven't played, sorry, I haven't played any of those like heavier wine games, like Vinos and stuff like that. I didn't play any of
Yeah.
those to really be able to compare those to this. But this one, is actually on that medium weight. It's not a hard game at all. So it's fairly easy to teach once they understand, what the places do, the locations where your workers do. You have that. Is it called the Grande worker? Is that what the big
Yep.
one was called? You can kind of
Yep.
that can go anywhere, and stuff. So that's kind of a nice little add-on, and it's just a nice little, peaceful game. There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot of player interaction at all, other than just the stealing of the spots. Um, and But yeah, I mean, this is just one that's probably my overall. I mean, there's going to be a Stonemaier game possibly up higher on this list, but this is still probably one of my favorite overall games that they've put out. Um,
Yeah, this one ended up falling off my list, mainly because I haven't played it in quite some time, even though I completely agree. Like, I still have it, and I have everything for it in a very nice organizer. And I mean, with the Tuscany expansion, that gives you all 4 seasons instead of just the three. Uh, the support that they made for this game just enhanced it every single time. I think for a game that's like this, one thing that does bug me is the random visitors that you get in summer and fall. Those can completely swing the game in players' favors, and that's kind of like, well, everything else is fine. Or if you're making like if you're trying to make a certain type of wine because all your orders need pink, but you only keep drawing red grapes, it's like okay. So it's a little too random for me to be like, oh, this is a stellar worker placement game. But it is a very good one and one that I think a lot of people who are getting into this type of genre should play for sure. Um, but I still have it because I mean, if I'm gonna play it, I'm not gonna take it that seriously like I
right.
probably was previously. And yeah, if you're playing it super casual and you're you're drinking wine, you can even do wine tastings while you're playing. This game can have a very awesome atmosphere. So I agree. It's funny because I feel like Stonemaier lately has they're like their business model is kind of weird, and I think it's because he puts himself out there for a lot of stuff that it's like he's on the forefront of a lot of people's attention, which makes like the games that he makes that aren't amazing, um, kind of stand out more. But Stonemaier still makes bangers like pretty frequently.
Yeah,
Um,
I haven't really cared for a lot of the more recent stuff. I mean,
I know you and I didn't care for Expeditions, but I think overall people like that one. Um, Stamp Swap, I think is really good. And then, I mean, we have Wormspan, which I have no idea what people think on that, but apparently Finspan is pretty good from what I have
I've heard
heard.
I've heard Finspan's like it's an easier entry into
Oh,
that style of
really?
game. Like it's
I
an
yeah,
it's
I have heard that too, but I
yeah.
think for some people they might like that.
Yeah.
Um, and again, even though I love high fantasy, I would take Finspan over Wormspan. Like
Yeah.
that nature theme kind of fits. Uh, but I mean, they're out there. They're one of the few publishers that still sends me review copies, and Jamie's a super nice guy, so I have nothing really against Stonemaier. Now, the one thing about the Rolling Realms, which is like their circle jerk of their own games, it's like all right. And then Red Rising was ass, but
Yeah.
oh well. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
Still, Viticulture, great game. My number 78 fell quite a ways, actually. It was 32 last year and 46 the year before. This is mainly due to I haven't played it, and I really, really do like this game. Um, I think this is a little bit of, and we're gonna see it with another one, actually quite a few. This might be my big, big edition game section. But I don't know. I feel like if I had the base game, I would hit this to the table more because all the expansions I never really want to mess with, and that is Isle of Cats. Because at the end of the day, this is a polyomino game, and when you throw a bunch of like extra stuff like the kittens or the extra tiles or the extra ways of scoring, I feel like it can bog down like the pure experience of whenever I first played this game, and I'm like, man, this is a bunch of random shit that is jumbled together in one game that work. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that I think this is an excellent polyomino game. The theme is you're sailing to this island that has all these magical cats to rescue them from some guy who's gonna skin them or something. I don't know what he's doing. He's evil. He's an evil guy. What does it actually say on Board Game Geek? It's citizens of Squall's End on a rescue mission must rescue as many cats as possible before the evil Lord Vesh arrives. Okay. Um, but like whenever you're actually drafting these cats, you're drafting cards as well that are gonna either let you take more cats, that are gonna give you scoring objectives, that are gonna give you more baskets, that are gonna give you more shoes. The drafting element of this really um enhances this game because I like that idea of like, ooh, okay, I want to keep this card because it's something that I can aim for in the short term, but if I discard it, then it's going to go out for other people to start scoring as well. That extra layer of, I mean, just card drafting, I think, is a really awesome mechanism to throw in. And then you have the different types of cats of various shapes that you're trying to fill out your board. Again, a Feast for Odin style, or really any polyomino game where you kind of have negative points, but you also want these cats to be grouped together because you want their different types of families. So it's kind of a set collection game as well. Uh, there's a lot that is going on, at least not a lot in terms of not in terms of rules, but in terms of like you have a little bit of every mechanism thrown in to this game, but they all work with one another. And
Right.
the what's really cool is it kind of has a bunch of different goal cards that you could throw in that's going to give you a different type of game every time. And I like that. That's kind of the only set of expansions that I have messed with. Oh, I've played the beasts and the kittens, like mini expansion. What was that? That was called beasts and kit. Yep, kittens and beasts. I did I did play with that, and the kittens are again just smaller versions of these, which spread out like the help you fill out your board. I also have the boats expansion that give you a different layout of a boat, and that's also very good. But I don't know. I really don't know why I haven't played this. Um, because I know as soon as I do, I'm going to be reminded about like, oh, yep, this is fantastic. Bump it up to the 40s again. Because this one, the expansions that I have played have gotten nines, and this game has gotten a 10 for me just because of how well everything synergizes with each other. So I didn't try their Race for the Raft
Right.
game. I don't think I've tried anything that is in this universe, I guess is what we're calling it. But this one, if you like polyomino games, which I do, spatial awareness games, just really do it for me. And I highly recommend Isle of Cats.
Yeah, this is a good one. It was like in the 200s for me on this, but it's still I only have the retail base game of it. I don't have
Gotcha.
any expansions and stuff, but it's a plus I suck at spatial awareness games, so
Yeah,
I kept it because it's one that I can get to the table pretty easy because Amy likes it and other people that we've game with like it and stuff. So
nice. Yeah,
so it's you know
I was just reminded, because I was looking at the BGG page and then it was like, oh, official links, the city of kings.com. And I'm like, what? And I forgot the designer of this
City of
is this.
Kings.
Yes.
Wow,
And
that's
it's
a
like,
other
and
end of the spectrum.
I've replayed City of Kings relatively recently, and I was reminded of how mediocre that game is. It's
Yep.
not bad. It definitely, the ideas of that game could have been expanded upon to make a much better experience. Um, but it's just kind of crazy because you could not have two different games from
Right.
the same
Exactly.
designer. And this one I think is phenomenal. So I has he worked on anything else recently? I don't think so. Oh, there's an Explore and Draw coming out. That's, I guess, the flip and ride or whatever of
Yeah.
this. But Emberleaf. I do remember seeing that. Did I back that? I can't remember. Yeah, Emberleaf is a competitive card dancing
Oh
and tile
gosh.
placement game. Yeah, you gotta have new gimmicks. Um, but that's anyway, that's a side tangent. I forgot this was designed by the City of Kings dude. So
Gotcha.
that's my 78, Isle of Cats.
All right. Well, my number 78 is another new one to this list, but it's not a new game. It's one that I had always kind of been interested in, and it was kind of hard to pick up over the last couple of years until I finally found somebody selling a secondhand copy of it. Um, it came out in 2016, so it's been a handful of years. But it's a game and a universe of a game that I used to own that really enjoy, and this is the Manhattan Project Energy Empire.
Nice.
Have you played this one?
I have not.
Okay. This one's actually uh like there's a lot of games, not a lot. There's a subset of games out there that deal with um energy creation and environmental effects. There was like CO2 had the
Yep.
environmental stuff where you had to do stuff. Well, this one takes place in the Manhattan Project universe, but it's not dealing with like bombs and crap like that, like the Manhattan Project was.
Okay.
This one is after that, and this takes place like late 20th century when the atomic age has happened. It has happened and taken place, and now we're trying to profit with the energy of it with nuclear plants and all this different stuff. And what you're doing in this is it's worker placement, tableau building. You're putting stuff out and building stuff or doing these certain actions, but they will hurt the environment depending on what you're doing. So you're trying to get scientists and different stuff that's going to reduce the effects of some of these deals. Um, and you're just kind of it's kind of that balance. You're trying to build stuff and keep creating energy, but without doing too much damage to the planet. But you're gaining resources to do different stuff to build certain things. But after you get to do two things. There's two choices in your deal. You can either have a worker work, and that's where you build and do different stuff like that, or you can have them generate. So there's different actions that go along with that. But at the end of that, you'll roll dice, and that will be what resources you pick up for your deal. So there is, it's not too punishing. You can roll dice and not get, a lot of what you need sometimes. But the solo for this game is really awesome. It has that. It's not crazy heavy, but there's a lot of choices with this game.
Okay.
And I don't have a game like this in my collection, like a environmental deal. Like, I've never touched CO2. I've just heard you talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, this one's just, it's a really cool game like that, and it kind of puts you, the board is kind of interesting because it's just like all the other Manhattan Project games. Like the board actually looks like an office, like your desk in an office and you're doing stuff with it and everything. But
Are they making a second one
well,
or a new edition?
there's an expansion that nobody can find.
Okay.
Like it's completely like people pay a couple $100 for this expansion and stuff and everything, but I haven't heard if they're making a new version
There
per se.
is. Yeah, a new edition of a modern classic includes all the gameplay of the original edition as well as the Cold War expansion, the new
Oh,
UN
shit.
Envoys expansion, and more.
Is it coming to Kickstarter?
I would imagine so.
Interesting.
Yeah, 2025 this
I
year.
might, I might have to sell mine and pick that up because then it'll have the Cold War expansion in it. But no, this one is a really, really solid game. Like if you like those kind of games where you're trying to balance that threat of global impact and stuff like that, it's a really nice game.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I mean I've seen this around and I've seen it on a bunch of other people's lists, but um I didn't know anything about it.
And the
I mean I
solo's not bad either on this game.
cool. Cool. But yeah, I mean if anyone's not aware, there's a new edition coming that has all content
Sweet. That's what
sometime
I'll
in
be picking up.
2025. Oh, because there was Manhattan Project 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Well, no, it's that was Minutes to Midnight.
Yeah, obviously.
I
It's
have
not
I have that
Electric
one too,
Boogaloo.
and that one is actually just missed my list.
Okay,
But that one's actually a lot more heavier than this one.
I see.
So
All right, good
mhm.
deal. Okay, so my number 77 was 25 last year and number 8 the year before.
Jeez.
Now, I think the in 2022, I think 8 was an anomaly, or I was playing it a bunch at that time. Even though it's fallen quite a ways, I still think this game is really, really good. This kind of like Isle of Cats has definitely suffered from the this is too big, so I can't bring it anywhere. And because it's too big, I don't want to ever open up the box to set it up. And that is Everdell,
Yes, I hear you.
which it's so crazy because for years, I'm sure they've heard this same complaint. For years, people were like, "We want a storage solution," and they're like, "All right, here you go. Here's everything for it, in a very nice game trays, like it's super sexy." And then now everyone's like, "Oh, it's too organized. It's too big. We don't want to play." Um, even though base Everdell and all the expansions, I haven't tried the solo variant with the spiders or anything, but Belfair, the Spirecrest, Pearlbrook, and there's one more. All of those expansions are really, really good. Pearlbrook is okay, but like the other ones are super solid that only enhance this game. And they did an awesome job of having all the expansions attached to the main board. So it's just one big, like, thematic area that they've created in their world of Everdell. Um, the way this game plays of worker placement, where you start with very few workers, but then as you pass, you get more workers available. So it's all about efficiency, how you can use your resources, how you can make um your turns last as long as possible till you have nothing left to do, and then you finally pass to the next season to kind of refresh everything with a very limited tableau building of certain cards you can have. I really do like that element of, hey, I have the farm in my tableau, therefore I get to play the husband and the wife for free. Um, I think that's a really cool element. I mean, you see that in stuff like Seven Wonders. But in here, I feel like there's a little bit more that's going on with that, and you get certain cards that give you your own personal action spaces. You get cards that are one-time events, but in the summer and the fall, those production cards trigger again. End of game scoring. This is a extremely good worker placement tableau game, and with every single expansion, you're just able to do more. The Spirecrest lets you go on a journey. Belfair adds visitors and things like that. Um, Pearlbrook just gave you a new resource. So you can play with all of them, which I don't think I've ever actually done. Or you can just pick which expansion you want to throw in. But like I said, it fell a significant amount due to just having that massive box. It's a great centerpiece, like
Oh
sitting on
yeah,
top of my thing. It's like boom. The art is just gorgeous. I love the art for this game. I have played Farshore, and to me, Farshore and their new one that's coming out, what's it called? It is called,
starts with like a S, doesn't it?
yeah, Everdell. Well, funny enough, Everdell is on the hotness. Oh man, where is it? I swear I just saw it. It's like Spirecrest or no, it's not Spirecrest. Evercrest. Everdell. Spire Silverfrost.
Yeah.
Um, both of those to me just feel like shit. We closed the book on our Everdell stuff, so we want to keep making more. Um, Farshore is basically Everdell, just with a pirate theme slapped on. Although they did add in a new rule where, like, because in base Everdell or even any of the expansions, the cards that are out in the market, there's only ever 8 cards, even if there's duplicates. Far Shore made it to where if duplicates come out, they stack on top, so you always have 8 unique cards.
That's
And
cool.
whenever I was playing Far Shore, I was like, that's a really good idea. I'm gonna do that in Everdell.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you could easily just do that. And the solo variant was way better in Far Shore than Rugwort or whatever his name was. Um, but yeah, other than that, like if you're only ever getting base game of either, I mean, pick your poison on theme. But if Everdell has all the stuff, if you want to add more, so yeah, extremely good worker placement game. I still have it. I don't imagine I'll ever actually get rid of it, but yeah, it's kind of an ordeal to start to set up for it now just because that box is so heavy.
Well, and I was excited with it because all I had for this game was just the regular retail edition of the base game.
Yeah.
And then when this came out, that was my chance to get like the collector's edition of that and all the expansions and everything. So I've only played with a couple of the expansions. I haven't played with all of them yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty awesome game.
I don't know how well the game would do if you played with every single expansion.
Oh geez.
But I mean, I'll have to give it a try. I really do want to try it. Like I very much enjoy every expansion that they've added. It would just be I just imagine it would be half of the stuff isn't being touched because
Mhm.
again, it's an efficiency game. If people aren't playing efficient, then their game's over. You can play where people are done before others.
Yep.
So it's still one worth getting. If you're going out, just start with the base. Don't pick up someone's complete collection unless they're giving it to you. But other than that, that's my 77 Everdell.
Right. Well, my number 77 is another new one to my list. This is one that you showed me. I had a lot of
Welcome.
interest in this game anyway. But then when you had it and said you wanted to record for it, it was one I really wanted to try because it's a co-op game that has a lot of unique aspects to it. And that is Leviathan Wilds.
Ah, nice.
Um, I still waiting on my copy of this, because I backed it because it would when we played that and reviewed it, it was currently on crowdfunding at that time for the next edition or expansion and stuff. But
Hmm.
since I played it with you, another person I know has it, and I've played some with them too. So
Nice. I have
um,
also played this game recently.
yeah, so this one was really neat because, well, for starters, it's got the book map, which is awesome anyway. And
Dude,
these,
speaking of book maps, I know I'm cutting you off and this is
yeah,
gonna go on a small tangent.
yeah, you're
I
good.
was Dragon Eclipse. Um I was taking a look at that. You know what they did for their book map?
What's that?
So all of them have a spiral bound, obviously. They have a top and a bottom, and the middle is empty. So the actual board is not interrupted by the
Oh,
spiral
interesting.
bound. And I was like, thanks, Awakened Realms, thinking
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Because my my one major complaint, and it is major because it is very annoying, is that stupid ring. I
Yes.
it's massive.
Well,
It's
I'm
so
wondering.
big.
I think I could maybe 3D print a smaller one. I was
I
going to look
real
into it.
I would imagine that there is because um and like you would be like, well, who cares if it's too big? It gets in the way of being able to actually see stuff and it hits that spiral bound. Otherwise, if it was smaller and just fit around the
Nice.
fucking meeple, yeah, that's like the size of the whole monster.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know why that it's really not a major complaint, but it is very annoying. Otherwise this game is fantastic.
Oh yeah, and pretty much it's cooperative because you are climbing on these giant beasts, which has a creative way that they lay out this grid matrix thing on it for movement points. You can move. There's ledges because you can purposely fall if you want to go down to a ledge to move a lot quicker. But the creatures behave differently as well. Um, you can alter that, I believe, with that deck, right? Because there's like mutations and stuff you can
Yeah,
add
yeah,
in
yeah.
and stuff.
So your difficulty is based off of how many cards start on the blue side.
Mhm.
which is like their enhanced blight side. As the game goes on, those will naturally flip, but you're if you're starting on like hard difficulty, two of them will already be that way. But there's a deck of mutations that for each Leviathan you throw in, and that completely changes them as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
I haven't
it's
tried any of those though.
right. Um, but it's neat because there's these dice that are on each of these deals, and you're trying to remove the blight from them. So you have to get creative because each character has their deck of cards, and those cards can do a variety of different things. There's different things where you can glide, you can do actions to glide, you can fall, you can. There's just a bunch of different stuff you can do in this game, and
Hmm.
it plays extremely well solo. Um,
Because you two-hand it, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You always want at least a couple of heroes because
I wasn't sure.
yeah,
I
yeah,
never looked into the solo. I assumed you two-handed it. It's so interesting with this game because when you and I played it, uh, we played the first Leviathan, of course, and won, and it was pretty easy. I felt like we did a pretty good job, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we weren't really affected by anything they were doing. And then we played with Devin at three, and I think we still won, but it was a lot more difficult.
it was a
And I
lot.
was like, okay, this is a more player game.
Yeah,
Then I taught a friend of mine, two players and the first Leviathan, and it was rough. We lost. It was bad. So I think a lot of it is kind of based off your team comp, your own climber, because you pick like the class and then the I don't know, race, I guess. Um, so it's like that it's just very there's a lot of stuff you can do to where if you fight the same Leviathan over and over, it's not going to be like, oh, here's
right.
what this one's going to do. Because the one that I was playing where we lost, I just went super simple. Like I wanted to hit hard and that was it. I was so slow and I was gassed the entire time. It was like a bot, like a strong man doing this. He's just like, all right, I'm here. Smashes one thing in one hit. He's like, I'm gonna lay down.
Like
Tired.
it's like Gimli. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, all right, here's a ledge. Because I was always out of the cards. And then like I'm sitting there exhausted, and then it's like targeting me, and I'm like, dude, I can't move. It was rough, but I like that. I want my cooperative games to be extremely
Oh
difficult,
yeah.
but fair. There's some games that are hard for the sake of being hard.
Well, I
Um,
think that's the other thing, really quick, that this is not a like you can play it like a campaign kind of thing, but it's really
mhm.
good for like the one-offs.
It's
Like
purely one-off. That's a great thing.
yeah, because isn't there like a little bit of a where you can play it like campaigny, or is that
As
something
far
that's
as
in the next?
uh,
Or is that something that because I thought there was a little bit of like a
may
minor campaign, not like a big, but I thought there
if
was
there
a
is, I'm not aware of it. As far as
maybe it's
I,
this
I
next
maybe
project
it's the
that's coming.
expansion.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I know I mean because they have your 16 Leviathans, and as far as I'm aware, you can just pick any one of them and play against it.
Maybe it's the new stuff because I remember something. It isn't like a serious
Yeah,
campaign. It's just like think like Arcadia Quest where you play just like six of them,
gotcha.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
anyway,
good game. Good pick. All right. My number 76 also fell. Not as much though. It wasn't like I'm basically kicking it off the list. It's like, you know what? I feel bad for Everdell. We'll throw it on there. Um, this one was 66 last year and 74 the year before. And I kind of imagine this is where it's gonna sit. Um, and again, 3 games in a row, funny enough, suffering from now I have everything in one big box. And I'm usually teaching new people, and so I don't want to be like expansions. And that is Vindication.
yes,
Even though, again, every expansion that they've added has been great. Um, they gave exact what people were wanting. Hey, I know this game is like a Euro game, and it's thematic, but we'd love some storytelling for it. And they're like, boom, here's your storytelling expansion. Great. Now we have a bunch of little boxes. Can we get a storage solution? Boom, here's a great storage solution. Great. I don't want to play this anymore. Um, it's And I think the reason is, again, I mean, Everdell is just massive. That's really the biggest thing. It's like, because I have huge campaign games that I'll break down. Aeon Trespass, Odyssey. I'll be like, all right, time to set this up. But I think it's because I know I'm in it for the long haul. I'm playing 10 games in a row. Everdell, it's like, all right, let's do the exact same thing for a worker placement game. But Vindication kind of has that same feeling, although it is a adventure storytelling game in a one shot. The overall theme is that you're some piece of shit who was marooned off of his ship and arrived on this island, and you're doing anything and everything to kind of to vindicate yourself, to make something of yourself by slaying monsters, getting magical artifacts, getting allies. So I'm guessing you're just sleeping around. You're doing a bunch of different stuff, and I mean, the one thing is like, why are other people here? It's like we're competing against each other to see who can be the best person. Um, but
It's just the
it's
planet
so
where everybody drops their shit heads, and it's just like,
right.
yeah,
It's like that. What was that game? There was like a game show, I think, or there was a movie about that game show where it's like put them all on an
yeah,
island and people are
that's Stone Cold
observing.
Steve Austin in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what this is.
The Condemned.
And it's it is really, really good. Like the things you're doing, fighting monsters, you have these different virtues that you are using. You have your three common ones, and then you can combine those to get the more rare ones, which allow you to slay monsters or get magical artifacts. And each of those decks are 100% unique. Like, I don't think there's duplicate. I mean, I think there are duplicates in the core ones, but like the magical items can be awesome. The monsters you fight can be awesome. And then whenever you're doing the storytelling expansion, you're given choices, and that kind of will pick the path of the character you're kind of wanting to build. Um, and then the way that this game ends is one of the better game end triggers that I've seen. Is that as more people are getting points, you're getting objectives that are being flipped, and it's like, okay, boom, now here's more triggers that can end the game. And I really like that. I think that's super unique. Orange Nebula as a company, they're kind of like was Ivy Studios, where they don't make a lot of games, but they make really good quality, solid games. And I think their big one that's coming out next is the Spiritfire. That is a huge, huge undertaking, very testy game. And we'll see if that ends up working out. But I I do really like showing this game to people, but it is usually the base game.
Yeah,
And and that makes it difficult to be like, unless you sit down and you're just like, okay, boom, we're gonna play Vindication. All right, did everyone like that? Yes, let's play it again and throw in this expansion, which is really rare for me. Usually I want to play, okay, we played Vindication, great. Now let's play a different game.
yeah.
But yeah, this one is, whenever it was coming out, they were like, oh, it's a Euro game, but with theme. Hmm, that doesn't really work. And I think it does. I think this one is kind of one of a kind. Even though, it's down in the 70s and I haven't played it in quite some time, I mean, I'll still keep it because I do really like the way this game does play when I do play it.
Yeah, I think the last
The,
time I played this was with you back in the day when we were playing that
the
new
Chronicles
expansion.
expansion,
Yeah.
dang, yeah. And I guess they're
So
doing a new one that I don't know.
it's that
It's
scaled down version.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and I was like, wait, are they remaking it? And yeah, the way they were advertising it made it seem like there was like this whole brand new game. And I'm like, this is Vindication. What are you talking about?
It's what they teamed up with Sky Kingdom for, I believe, because it came out at the same time. Waste of Parts and all that. They're not Waste of Parts. It was or was it Waste of Parts? There was something they teamed with that they, because there was promos you could get for one with the other. I'm pretty sure it was the um
Um, I don't know.
but
Vestige. That's
yeah,
it.
that's the name of it.
That's a new one coming
But
out.
I think there's parts like if you backed this one project and backed the Siege, you've got promos for each game.
Interesting.
And I think it was
Okay.
Sky Kingdom. I'm pretty positive it was, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, that one didn't interest me at all. Like if I'm going to play not Viticulture, if I'm going to play Vindication, this is the version I want to play of it.
It is funny though, because my major issue was just that it was too big, or that I'm having a difficult time getting it to the table. And they're making a version that is probably the best way to alleviate that problem. But it's like I already own all this, so
Yeah.
like there's nothing stopping me from playing this except me just not going and grabbing the game. So it's I think it's definitely made for people who that all this stuff is too much, but they really like the idea, so then you can go get Prestige and get the same experience, is how I'm thinking of it in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my 76 Vindication.
All right. Good choice. All right. My number 76 is a game that was 149 last
Ooh,
year.
back up.
Well,
49,
yeah,
70 spots.
73 spots. Yep. And the reason is because I've actually played it. I had played it like I think once or twice last year, and that's where it kind of fell off. But I've played it a handful more times this year, and really like it because it's a solo only game, and it's a solo only war game at that. So it's not much to look at on the table, but it's an interesting war theme that you don't really hear a lot about, and then it's got some really cool mechanics on it, and that is Halls of Hegra.
Nice.
This was a Kickstarter that I backed, a couple of years ago, and pretty much it's a World War II game, but you are controlling your Norwegian volunteers, and you are taking on the German forces the Germans are trying to invade your mainstay, which is Hegra, and you're trying to defend your area. Is pretty much what it comes down to. And it's weird to me because it says on BGG that it's in the same vein as Robinson Crusoe, This War of Mine, and Dead of Winter. And I don't necessarily see that a whole lot. I mean, that's kind of a weird range of games to compare it to.
Yeah, because I mean, This War of Mine and Robinson Crusoe make me think programming. Like you're sending out people to do various actions kind of all at once.
Right. And you kind of are a little bit, but it's not like
okay.
It doesn't feel like that,
Yeah.
But anyway, this is
or
this
just
is what it looks
brutal
like.
co-op. I mean, I heard
Right.
brutal co-op and all that, where it's like, man, we're doing well and we lost.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like. I mean, it looks like a
Okay.
war game. It's kind of, but pretty much there's 3 stages of the game. There's the mobilization stage, which is where you're searching the fortress and you're digging your way through snow to you get supplies to you, because it's during the winter, it's snowed in. You're trying to get supplies to you because what's happening is eventually, which I'll get to at the end, is when the Germans are doing a siege on Hegra. So you need to make sure you try to have enough supplies to outlast them and all that stuff, because you're not going to beat them because they're far outnumber you, and you're Norway. I mean, you're Norway.
You'll win wars.
but so that's the first part, and then there's the first attack. So there's this like little village that's kind of between them and Hegra, so they're going to attack that deal, and you're trying to defend it as well as you can, even though it's kind of a mute point at that point. But you gain new volunteers to help you out and all that stuff too. You're still trying to get supplies at this point. You're sending out scouts to get supplies. And then the very final phase is the actual siege. So once it gets to that point, they're sieging your deal. And then you just have to survive their onslaught, and trying to keep your morale up, which I guess the morale part of it's where the Dead of Winter and stuff comes in, because you do have to manage morale.
I see.
So that's probably where that comes from a little bit. But
you said this was World War II, right?
World War II, yeah.
Okay. Is that red bag called the Hitler bag? Is that the Hitler bag? Or is
no, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't even think mine has that bag.
Okay. It's a
I don't know what that
custom-made
is.
one. This guy has a bunch of Nazis. He
Hitler
made his
bag.
version where he plays as the Germans.
Oh, God.
Like I I just it could just be hit bag, but I was like, huh, that'd be
Oh no,
very odd.
it is the hit bag. There's a recruit bag, a
Okay.
hit bag, and a patrol bag. Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, the one thing, because I remember you bringing this game up, and then and when you said all those games that it was saying it was like, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Um, the one thing I've heard of this game is that, which could be the Robinson Crusoe, this War of Mine thing, where there comes a point where you're doing well, then all of a sudden you're not. And
Mhm.
it kind of becomes very difficult for you to come back, where it's like, well, all right, guess we're gonna lose.
It's a brutal game. I mean,
Okay.
you don't win
You
super
do a little
often.
better each time.
Well, right, but I mean that was the point. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about this particular battle in
Yeah.
World War II, but I mean, just like it says here, it's an abandoned mountain fortress that you command a group of Norwegian volunteers fighting numerically superior German forces in the early days of World War II. So it's like you're completely outnumbered and you're a bunch of volunteers. I mean, you're
Yeah.
not going to beat the Nazi army.
Yeah,
you,
that's
you know,
actually trained.
right. So
But
you're just
they
trying to
could,
survive.
that group of Nazis might all be on meth. So you
That's
might
true.
stand a chance.
Or
Might
or
get
they
the
could
tweakers out there.
be driving their Teslas, whatever you want to.
Yeah, they could. They
The
could.
Tesla
Yeah, I mean,
bots, Tesla
yeah, the
bots.
Tesla, but yeah, the Tesla bots that they got now, um, from their new Lord and Savior. It's fucking A. Um, yeah, this one, it's solo only.
Yeah, solo only,
Okay.
extremely. Yep.
It looks good. Like I really do like the layout
Yeah, it's a
of
solid one. Like you've heard me talk about Warfighter. Remember that World War
yeah,
II card game?
yeah.
Like this, that's a really fun game, but there's just so much to it and so much to keep
Mhm.
track of that this one actually fits that World War II deal a little bit even better.
Okay.
You know, it. So yeah, I mean,
Have
it's
you
definitely worth a shot. It's
have
a
you won?
solid one. No, I played it like by what 7, 8 times.
Yeah,
I've gotten close a few times, but it's a tough one.
yeah.
I mean, but I mean, it's supposed to be.
Cool.
So
All right, good deal. All right, my number 75 is a game that I finally got to show you. I don't know if you ever picked it up. And if you have, I don't know if it would be on your list at this point. Maybe if you played it more. Um, and this one actually rose, and it is not a game that suffers from being too big. It's actually extremely small. It was well, I'll talk about where it was last year. It is Radlands. It was 83 last year and 90 the year before.
yeah, I wanted to pick this up, but I just don't know if I'd ever really play it.
Gotcha.
Like I would like to get it, but then if I got it, I'd want to get the deluxe version instead of the little
Yeah,
retail
the
version.
poor version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess in 2022 it was new. So it's rose, and I think it's because I have played this. This is a very easy one to get to the table and teach someone. And it's so wild because my major complaint of Memoir 44, for example, is that shared deck. And this one, you do that exact same thing, but for some reason, it does not bother me here. And I think it's because the cards are multi-use.
Right.
So it's an element of strategy to actually kind of potentially seed through the deck to try and get an action that you're like, okay, I need a like a event like man, I'm drawing a blank on the icon, the one that lets you move your events up. It's like I
Oh, yeah.
need that to come out right now, and you might top deck, you might not, but the fact that all the cards in that deck, to my knowledge, are unique, and you have various actions that you are able to do on your turn based off the water that you have, which is extremely limiting. And sometimes you might wait to be able to get an extra water for your next turn by not doing much on this turn. Uh, adds a lot of really good strategy. Um, and what's weird is you kind of think you have this lane system, and you kind of do, but when doing actions, you are able to kind of target where you want to target. But then what makes this game like jump that next level are your camps. The fact that you're going to have completely different camps that are going to give you a completely different strategy from your opponent is really awesome. You might have one camp that is like your entire basis, everything that you are putting your eggs in, like the basket, everything you're putting your eggs in, and all the other ones are just kind of like cannon fodder to help defend that. I mean, there's so many powerful camps out there, but then also just some really good utility ones. And you can either do it just by randomly dealing out camps, or you can draft. And I've played both ways. I enjoy both ways. Obviously, the drafting one makes it a lot more strategic, but I mean, that theme, the artwork really comes through. Um, so it's a really, really good 1v1 post-apocalyptic Rage 2 kind of theme.
Yeah, I love playing this. I mean, I would own this if I knew I was going to be able to play it. That's the thing. It's just that's where it falls.
Right.
I'm not sure Amy would like this. I'm not sure. If I was able to find the deluxe version and all that stuff, I would probably just pick it up just in case, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And then, like, surprisingly, he came out with an expansion, and I don't remember how they twisted his arm to do so, because as far as I knew, he didn't want to, because everything was curated in a very specific way. But the expansion basically, I mean, it redid a few camps, or like did some balancing on some camps, and then added new ones.
Right.
So it's there. I haven't done a review on the expansion just because it was so small that it's like I wouldn't really be able to like stretch that into anything instead of like it's good. Radlands expansion. Get it today. So, however, if you are looking for a really awesome 1v1 card game, I highly recommend Radlands.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. All right. My number 75 was a game I believe you talked about in the last segment. It was 78 for me last year, 75 this year. I think this is probably where it's going to pretty well solidify itself. I generally get this played about once a year or so, just
Okay.
depending. But it's a beautiful game on the table, and that is Maracaibo.
Nice.
This one is, like we talked about when you were talking about this game, like there's Pirates of Maracaibo that's out now. And you can own them both. They're both different games. Pirates is easier to get out and play though. So I don't know if that will affect this one necessarily a whole lot. You aren't doing the same stuff though, so that's why I say you can have them both.
Okay.
But this one, I mean, this is your Alexander Pfister Rondell game. I mean, this is he's got all your normal things in there. You're moving around, you're doing all your classic trading in the Mediterranean stuff. but
Trading in the Caribbean.
yeah. But you have the multi-use cards has always been a big thing that's talked about with this. The solo aspect of this is really solid, just like a lot of his games are.
One of the only or very few Euro campaigns.
Yes.
There's not many of those. I can't think of any off the top of my head where it's like, oh man, this is a Euro game through and through with a campaign.
Yeah. And then I haven't played the Uprising expansion, but just like maybe once, I believe. I haven't really messed with that a ton yet. But that brings another aspect into it that kind of gets us to the table again. There's just, just like what you were saying back when on your part, it's just there's just a lot of neat decisions with this. And I believe I may be talking out of my ass here, but I think this might be the high. No, it's not the highest Pfister game. Never mind. I was getting ready. I forgot about that other one. But there's another one that's a lot higher than this one on my list by him. But yeah, I mean, this one's just a solid one.
It is.
I do prefer this one over like the Great Western Trails and stuff like that.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's a little more vibrant. It's a little more,
Have you only played base Great Western Trail?
Yes.
Okay.
I need to try New Zealand because everybody loves New Zealand, and that's the one that I think I would probably enjoy the most out of all of them. but I just haven't ever picked it up yet.
Yeah, at this point, it's either original or New Zealand. Everyone forgot about Argentina, or didn't like it as much. I don't know where that one's ranked though. I mean, it has been a few years. Argentina. I mean, even Argentina's at an 8.3, which is actually a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, I mean, they're just all so good. And this one, I mean, it was later on my list. Find my list. Yeah, it was on the last segment, but it is very solid. If I was playing this more, it would be higher for sure.
Yeah, and I think you'd like Pirates also because
Okay.
it's not as like chunky. I mean, it's got a lot of
Yeah,
decisions. I mean, it's not like it's a gateway game or anything, but it's a
right.
like a little bit of a lesser version, easier to get to the table.
Okay.
So,
Good deal. Good pick.
mm,
All right. My 74 is my first new one on the list. And I'm actually slightly surprised that it was actually this far back because I have done a complete 180 on this game from whenever you and I first played it. I was like, man, I don't get it. And then I don't know what happened. I either played it again with someone I like more than you, which might
yeah.
no, I played it again, and I think going in with a different set of expectations let me see this game for what it truly was, and that is War
Yeah.
Chest.
Yeah.
Again, when you and I played it, I was like, man, this game is kind of hard ass. And then I don't remember what made me try it again. Like I really don't. There was no reason for me to be like, I'll give it another shot with and then going in knowing kind of like you don't burn through all your chips. The coin, whatever it the oh, I don't remember what it's called, but like your sigil coin, how that has like diminishing returns. Yo, and that allowed me to play this game in a completely different strategy. I mean, it's a war game. I mean, this looks just as good as Halls of Hegra. I mean, the chips are sexy as hell, but what makes this fantastic, and I have played enough of this now to kind of, I mean, I haven't played every single um combination of like team comp, but I get it enough that whenever someone gets a certain one, because we don't draft. Every time I've played this, it's always been random deals of who you have. Every time I have done it, I need to draft. I get the Knights, and they're my least favorite squad. But then someone else gets someone that I'm just like, oh, you got the Envoy? Fuck. Like, and you start to learn those synergies and kind of like you see their comp and you see your comp, and both sides are like, that unit's going to be my biggest problem. So you start to focus on that. But the bag building element is done really well. And kind of like you'll play to your comp's weakness and you'll play to its strengths. So the skirmish element of this really comes out, especially with more and more plays. And if you're able to kind of take out one of your opponent's best forces and then you get to keep some of yours and you can counter a lot of their advances, then it makes them a lot more difficult to overcome. And the expansions that they did, one of them actually gives an extra use for that dead token, which is really nice. It's not a wild like I wish it would be, but someone has made it more thematic. Like they they've twisted the theme in a way that that token when it's a dead draw is supposed to represent your side's exhaustion in the war. I mean, it's a stretch for sure, but it's helped me kind of not hate drawing that because you can pretty much only use it for so many things. It's like, oh, I guess I'll take initiative. Oh, I already have initiative, so I can't do that, and I can't add anything, so I guess I'll do nothing with this. Um, but yeah, this one just has so many factions now. I don't know if they're gonna make more. Like they did recently make a new expansion, the Nightfall. Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was
I think
called.
you're right. Something like that. It was in that one set of AEG
Yeah,
expansions
their
that you could back.
expansion Aluza or
Yeah.
whatever, where they made an expansion for every game that they had. It was probably like their last ditch. Like, all right, here's the shit for games that we forgot about. I would enjoy more. I really, really do like this game. And like I said, I'm honestly surprised that it ended up being at 74, but here it is.
Yeah, this
So,
was one I wanted to like. Um, but at the end of the day, like when you have chips on a in an arena and you're fighting each other, I would much rather play Hoplomachus. And
oh,
that's
oh,
where
sure. Okay, sure.
that's
That's
where it
fair.
comes down to, because I mean it's
Yeah.
chips in an arena. There's more stuff with that. It's just,
Mhm.
I mean this was fine. I already have a game that does that and does it better. That's why, I mean, in my
Yeah.
mind, I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean that's a complete fair kind of comparison for that very reason. I think this one I don't there's no I mean the randomness is your bag draw, which to me is a little bit better than it's kind of like I draw from my bag and I see what I get and that's my strategy versus here's my strategy, let's hope dice, go in my
right,
favor.
right.
Um, but there is a lot more to it. What makes this one also work really well is that straight simplicity, and it's a
Mhm.
small footprint game. Like
Yeah,
I've taken this to a hookah lounge and was able to play it, and it just has that same element of deep strategy because it's so simple. Um, so yeah, I don't know if they're done. I hope not. I would like more units. I think every unit that they've added, even though the newest one we didn't like as much because there was like an assassin that would poison your unit or basically it locked units down and it was very annoying, but that's because we were really trying the expansion on its own, so it was just a bunch of lockdown and kill on each side. I think throwing those in with everything else would make it kind of the same vibe of like, oh, you got the knights, god damn it. That same feeling. So yeah, that's my 74 war chest.
all right. My number 74 is a game that's been on my list for a long time. It was starting to slide down. It used to be a higher game for me, and then it's started falling over the last couple of years. But I've played it many times this year, surprisingly. People wanted to play it, so I got it back to the table. It was 93 last year, so it's jumping back up a little bit. This is another one I've showed you, and that is Legendary
Oh,
Encounters, the Alien deck building game.
interesting.
This one's 11 years old now. I mean,
Wow.
and it still just sings. I mean, this was the first iteration into the Encounters system that, because everybody loved, Marvel Legendary until they didn't, and then and then but this encounter stuff actually brings in theme to a lot more thematic aspects to it, whether you're playing this one or Predator or Firefly, or they've come out with James Bond and Buffy. I mean, they got all kinds of them now, but this one's
Yeah.
still,
Naruto, Epic
yeah,
Spell Wars.
yeah, there's just a ton. But this one is
Oh, that's
is
Cryptozoic. I'm like,
Cryptozoic
that's
was
not
that.
Upper Deck. Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah,
of.
yeah. But this one's just awesome because especially if you're a fan of the Alien series, because you can set it up to play through the movies, and
Where's
you
the Romulus expansion?
I don't know. I think they're done
Where's
because
the?
this game's out of print.
Oh, okay.
Like people are selling this game for like $150 now or more. It's
Wow.
like, um, but they have a
You
few
go.
expansions. They have the Prometheus expansion. I know that.
Do they really?
Yeah, that was
Oh,
one of their later ones that came out.
wow.
But
And it was just as disappointing as the movie.
it wasn't a good expansion. Yeah, but but anyway, so this one, you're gonna have an avatar in it, so a character that adds a special card to your starting deck. So you have like medics or brutes or gun specialists, different stuff like that. But when you play through a movie, it tells you what objectives to put in, what deck stuff to put in, what characters to put in the buy row, so that it makes it from that movie. Because there's different versions of Ripley, and each one different ones are used in different movies, of course.
Yeah.
And what's unique about this one, what changed it from the stuff, is that they'll come in, the aliens come in face down in this area up here, and instead of coming fading, because in Marvel Legendary they come in face up and move through the city, so you'd kind of see what was coming. This one, you actually have to spend some attack to scan that room to get an idea what it is. and there's risk in that because if it's an egg, you could get a face burst. It goes to you, and you could have to take care of it before you know you die because the chest burster card gets put in your deal and all this stuff. It just is really neat how everything lays out. The playmat set up nicely. Also, this game's also the one that brought in the co-op or the coordinate aspect, because that wasn't something that you could really do in Marvel Legendary at the early stages. I don't know if they added it in later or not, but you can actually play a card if it has coordinate to give to the person whose turn it is, to give them either extra attack or currency or whatever. And then when you do that, you get to draw another card out of your deck. So there's a lot of, synergy where you're actually not tuning out on somebody else's turn because you could help them and stuff like that. This is just a solid game. And it'll always probably be on this list because it's just very thematic with the tone of the movies and stuff like that. Plus it's deck building, and I like deck building.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had a good time with this. I actually just rewatched all these movies too.
yeah.
And one and two are, masterpieces. Three is actually pretty good. I don't mind three. And four is just hot shit. It's so bad. But yet
Yeah.
almost in a campy way with Ron Perlman and all them. You're kind of watching and you're like, this is goofy. It's not
Right.
boring or, painfully bad like Alien Covenant. That one was fucking dog shit.
Yeah.
Um, Prometheus is okay. It had potential.
Yep.
Anyway, good game. My number 73 is my third one that rose. It was 95 last year and 35 the year before, so it's just boop boop boop. And that's because I actually got to play this. I was showing this to a girl I was dating, and yet even though it was dating, we are still this still moved up. That's how good this game is. It overshadowed that horrible relationship, and that is
Yes.
Yeto, the deluxe master
I
set.
still need to get this.
Yeah, you have the shitty version.
I don't
It's
have
actually
any version.
Oh, okay.
I just
Well,
need to get this one.
yeah, this one is very good. This one was, I mean, another board and dice game. I always forget that they did this one.
They didn't
Um,
initially. They didn't do
oh,
the
okay.
original version. They
They got the
just,
deluxe one.
yeah.
Yeah, this one is such a really cool amalgamation of a lot of different stuff. Like, I mean, I guess at its core, like what does BGG have it as? Like for mechanisms? I would imagine worker
Say
placement.
worker placement and tableau.
But
Oh,
God,
not tableau, but resource
yeah,
collection. Right.
yeah, auction bidding, set collection, worker placement. Um, because you have these different areas of the board that do various things. You have your weapon shop, you have area where you get more workers, you have where you can get um, geisha, you have where you can go get money, you can have it to where you go to a tea house and you can exchange stuff. But at the end of the day, like what you are doing is you're fulfilling orders. You have four different types of orders. All this game does what I mean Isle of Cats does and some others where I love having a bunch of different cards to choose from and you pick a certain few and you shuffle that together to give you kind of a different type of game. And this one has that with just tons of different themes for your orders. And yeah, so you start with like the green, which are your easier ones, but as you start getting more workers and more resources, you can start grabbing different types, which can give you a ton of different victory points. Hell, even in one of the sets you can take is called Kill the Shogun. And if you fulfill that, which is very difficult to do, I can't remember if you win or if the game ends. I think you win. I think if you kill the Shogun, you actually win the game.
Gotcha.
But you have to pretty much have everything go your way and people have to kind of know you're going for it and let you do it. Um, so it's a hard one to do. But I love that. I love being able to be like, I think I'll grab some red. And the bidding for turn order is awesome. Whether you go in at a certain time that lets you go for the white, black, or the red actions and the fact that your workers can get arrested meaning you don't get to do anything and you have to go out and get them back because there's a guardsman that's patrolling, and there's event cards and action cards that are also tons of different sets that you can shuffle together. There's just a huge amount of variety. And then overall, what looks to be like a busy game is extremely clean. This is a very clean game and straightforward game to play. Um, and I mean, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you have different buildings you can get in your player board that give you certain perks, which the player in this picture has two of them. But if you don't kill the Shogun, then it comes down to whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game, which is based mainly off of your orders. And yeah, it's just one of those worker placement games that has tons of variety built into the setup on top of how just streamlined that this game is. So I really like it. I love this theme. And even the orders kind of have theme to it. I think they have flavor text on them, so you can kind of read what you're doing, and there's a thematic reason to it. Uh, and I like that extra layer, just instead of just being like, and I did this, which is what most people are doing. But you can read it and be like, I'm not gonna say this Japanese name because I'm a butcher it, but this is what I did. I beat up the shopkeeper because he was raising his prices. Um, yeah, it's a very, very good one. So that's my 73.
Yeah,
Neato.
if I can find this version at a decent price, I'll probably pick it up because I had the old original version.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, this is definitely art upgrades and stuff big time, but the other one was always nice too. But this one looks really, really good.
Yeah. And I think this version comes with, I mean, there's a solo variant, which is by David Turczi, and there's a co-op variant, which I have not tried. Still to this day, I've not tried the co-op variant, which
All
I don't
right.
know if that's good at all.
Yeah. All right. Good one. All right. My number 73 is a new game to this list. I don't have a ton of experience with this game. I've played it a couple times. But it is like took the place of a few games already. And the art of it's really neat. And I wish I had the deluxe version, but that is Raising Robots.
Interesting. Okay.
This one, the art is just awesome in this game, but pretty much what you're doing in this game is what the games I think this replaces for me is games like, the whole Wormspan, Wingspan, all that stuff.
Okay.
Because you're kind of doing the same thing overall. But what you're doing in this is you are an inventor and you are creating all these cool, funny looking robots because all the cards are crazy and everything. But you're creating all these robots, but you get a certain amount of energy each round.
Yeah, it does look like
that's a 6-player game. I've never played it with more than 2, but anyway, so you have your own little Tableau board there, and you're trying to do different things with your energy to like perform upgrades, assemble robots. You can get more batteries, resources, more robot cards, but you're playing them in that zone. So like it's kind of hard to see, but like these are your design, fabricate, recycle. There's all these different things, and you're putting the robots in there, and they will gain victory points throughout the game. And then at the end, there's 8 rounds, and at the end you tabulate all your stuff. But what's cool is just the neat looking art with these cards, and I wish the picture was a little bit closer, but like the art on each of these cards are just crazy good, and they're comedic. They're funny because of the way their stuff do different jobs and have different things. They all have different abilities on them. There's just a lot of cool stuff with this, and having that Tableau build where you're keeping stuff in your, just like in the span games, that's what I'll call them. You're putting your stuff in there and then doing stuff that gives them more energy, or you can spend energy to do different things with them. This is just one of those games that I have the retail version, the deluxe version. I think this is the deluxe version because of all the wood stuff, but
gotcha.
But
Is
but
this
yeah,
coming out with an expansion?
I think that the project already ended. It ended
Oh, okay.
a while back. Which they may be doing
Well,
light
there's
backing
one
now.
set for 2025 called Raising Robots Friends.
Well, I think that's was what the
Is
last
that
project
oh,
that
okay?
happened like 5 or 6 months ago, maybe.
Gotcha.
There may be a late pledge on it though. I'll have to check it out. But because I hadn't played this yet when that project was going, so that's why I didn't back anything on
I
it.
see.
But uh, but no, this one's a really solid game. It's a cute game, but there's a lot of enough meat to it to keep you going back. And it has a lot of good replayability with it too.
Well, if it makes
Um,
you feeling better, there is a late pledge.
Sweet.
So
I'll have to go. Is it GameFound or was it Kickstarter?
it's Pledge Manager.
Oh, going okay. I'll, I'll
Ew.
I'll look it up.
Rado says it's Wingspan meets Race for the Galaxy,
I
which
haven't
is
played Race for the
funny.
Galaxy, so
Because I saw that middle board of the upgrade assemble, and I was like, that kind of reminds me of Roll for the Galaxy, because that's the only one I've played. I haven't played Race. It made me think of like, oh, which actions are people choosing to do, and that's what's going to trigger. Obviously I've never played this, so I have no idea. But just the middle section reminded me of Race or Roll for the Galaxy, and then obviously the 3 rows is Wingspan for sure.
yeah. Well, and there's the other thing I forgot to mention is like there's different like if you there's super powerful actions that you can do, but if you choose
Okay.
to do those, they help your opponents as well.
Oh, okay.
So it's like you can do these build up and do these really cool things, but they'll help your other people too.
Okay.
So
Cool.
it's really neat, and it's just this looks like a big conglomeration of just a table hog, but it's not that bad when you're just playing with like 2 people. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a really good one for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'm intrigued on that one. I bookmarked the late pledge because I think this
Yeah,
would be a solid one. I mean personally I think the art is awful, but no, I'm kidding. One, I can't even see it really. Yeah. No, that it reminds me of Robots, the movie.
yeah.
That's the kind of vibe. Is there an Aunt Fanny robot? Is there one with a sweet dumper?
I don't think so.
Well, they're missing out. That's an expansion. That's their after hours
Maybe that's in the
expansion.
Friends expansion.
Damn, Aunt Fanny got enough cake for the rest of us. Those are the robots I'm building.
Yeah.
All right, my number 72 was all right. So this is actually insane. It was 13 last year
Jeez.
and 6 the year before. So I mean, basically what I'm trying to say is this is just fucking awful. This game sucks. I met the designer at Gen Con and felt bad for him, so I threw it on my list. No, the real reason is this game. I mean, it came out with a sequel, kind of. It's in the same universe, and spoiler, that one is higher on my list, even though this one is still one of the most thematic horror games I have, and that is Deep Madness. I mean, in all honesty, I've actually played this recently too, and I have no idea why it's actually this far back. Just how the rankings, how it decided to do Deep Madness dirty, I guess. I mean, like it says at the bottom, sci-fi horror game. It is very much that. You know what it was? Is I've always attributed this to kind of Dead Space or Evil Within, um, but underwater. And I tried playing Evil Within again, and that video game is so bad. I think it tainted this game. I'm like, ew, I don't want anything that reminds me of Evil Within. But this is your straightforward dungeon crawl where you have a set of explorers, adventurers with all unique abilities and their health and their sanity going in to, I mean, not really a campaign. It's a campaign game as the CMON games are, where nothing carries over, but you play
Right.
them in order for storytelling purposes. It's that exact same thing. And you're picking a scenario to do, and that's gonna allow you to give you an objective, but you're swarmed by tons and tons of horrific looking monsters. And I mean, from a horror perspective, it is done extremely well. The art is fantastic. The gameplay is done really, really good. everything feels tense every time you're killing. I mean, what the weird thing is when you see sanity like this, you think Arkham Horror, where it's just a different health bar, really, but it's actually inverted in that you take sanity hits when you kill monsters and or you spend sanity for like rerolls and for actions. But so if you have sanity tokens and you kill something, because you're aware and you're kind of you know what's going on, that those sanity tokens flip to madness. And whenever you have, I think, 4 madness tokens, you get rid of them and you draw a madness card. And those madness cards are horrific. It's your character having a mental breakdown by what you're seeing, and then it might be, who knows, hallucinations or something just horrific that you're seeing. But also, as this game goes on, the tiles are going to flip to their madness side, uh, which is makes them horrific. Each space now has like a negative effect on it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think this game is relatively fiddly because it's just a lot of stuff that you're constantly grabbing. This game is not really streamlined in any way. But if you're going in knowing that, then it's just a super fun, highly thematic, high intensity co-op horror game. Um, with I mean tons of strategy, like going out and doing your actions to get various items that might be best for other players to meet up to trade. And then the way that the turn order is structured, I've always enjoyed. Of it's like investigator, monster, and then investigator, monster. But if you can kill all the monsters that's about to go next, you skip them and you go to the next person. Um, yeah, it's just I mean, it's kind of like your standard dungeon crawl that we've seen in a ton of other games, but there's not many horror games that are like this, like in all honesty. In fact, horror is a genre that it's I feel like it's weirdly tricky to do in the board game hobby because this isn't going to appeal to a lot of the masses. Even if it was a smaller footprint game, like no one's playing this with their kids because it's horrifically gory.
Right.
But if you do have that type of love for that genre, then this one is really one to dive into. And there's a ton of expansions. I think I can't remember if I got the newest expansion for this, but they went on it. I think I do have everything for it now. And they went out and made 2 big box organizers, which is nice. And this one does not suffer from that big box, like, oh, never gonna play it because it's in that big box. That actually enhances it.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of unique stuff. I think this is completely different from a lot of these types of dungeon crawl games. But you have to. There is a lot of reading. It is kind of like a lot of logs you come across for consequence or rewards that you get. But if you're willing to put in the effort and want to dive into a highly thematic game, then Deep Madness is really where it's at.
All
So
right.
that's my 72.
All right. Well, my number 72 could not be more opposite on the spectrum than this. And I
It's
don't even know.
Dog Park.
Well, and I'm this game has no business even being on my list because of the theme. But
Okay.
because everybody talked this game up so much over the last couple of years that I saw a guy selling his Kickstarter version online. So I went ahead and picked it up and tried it. And it's not a theme that I care for at all. But the gameplay
My Little
actually,
Pony, the deck builder.
no, no,
Okay.
it is
Oh,
Obsession. Um,
well, I mean, isn't this like a plantation? Like, so
well,
that is horrific in some way.
have you played this one at all?
No, I've seen it. I
Okay.
want to give it a shot.
People just were gushing on this game. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot because it's competitive. It's something I think my wife would like and stuff like that. So, um, pretty much what you're doing in this is you are a family that is trying to better yourself. Oh, so what you're doing is you are trying to host all these events at your uh, place. I almost said plantation, but it's not, but you are trying to renovate your house, like your estate, and try to make it big and fancy. Because at the end of the game, I mean, what you're trying to do is you're trying to win the hand of a very wealthy guy or girl, throughout the deal. That's kind of what you're gearing towards. So you want to try to raise your status, so that you can start wooing, these really rich aristocrats. But each turn you're going to choose a like a room that you're going to focus on, and that'll let you know like um, what stuff you can, what event is going to happen, and then you need to decide what staff you're going to put there, because it needs to be properly staffed, and all this different stuff. And if it's successful, and you gain your prestige and stuff, and you just kind of keep going from there. And the more stuff you get, the more money you get. The more higher ritzy people that start showing up, you start getting more money, which lets you renovate more parts of your estate. It's kind of this whole you know not an engine building per se, but there's steps, like you're trying to build up on your stuff to build your deal to get to that end game, to be able to wed the rich guy or girl that you're going for. It's not, it kind of has that same like viticulture look, like if you're looking at it, because it has that stuff. But the actions are pretty solid. The solo is kind of what I first did to kind of try to learn the mechanisms, and it's pretty solid on it as well.
Okay.
But and it's I would call this like a midweight again. It's not super. It takes a turn or two to really pick up what's going down, but then after you get that, then you're good to go. But it's definitely one that the game itself outplays the theme. Because this theme is nothing that I would even remotely want to go for, but
Yeah.
the mechanics and the gameplay of it actually is pretty good and pretty solid. So this was one I would probably add to our list if you want to try it, because it's,
Yeah. People say it's best at 2.
yeah, it's, I believe that it's a good one for sure. And then I have all the cool little storage boxes that came with it and all that stuff too. So it's a neat one for sure. I can definitely see where it got the praise that it was getting from people.
Adding it to the list now. Yeah, this one I have also heard that same love and hype for it, but I'm like, it's not that I was against the theme. I just never had anyone who owned it.
Yeah.
So, all right, good deal. And finally, number 71, probably the best 71 that you're ever going to hear. This is
So you see
new
mine.
to the list. I don't even think you've played my 71, and if you have, I have no idea what your thoughts are on it. This is new to the list and was one I tried at Gen Con this past year in 2024, and it almost had that, because when you play games at a convention or something, and the convention kind of air will exacerbate games, and then you buy them and play them at home, and you're like, man, this game fucking sucks. This game I was extremely worried it was going to, but I kept playing it and kept playing it and kept playing it, and it's so much fun. And that is Mind Bug.
Yeah, I haven't played it. I know about it because
Okay,
Denton has it all, and I was going to be playing his, but we just never got around to it.
gotcha. Yeah, so Mind Bug is genius, and I think they were telling me that when they pitched it to Richard Garfield, I think that I'm paraphrasing, but if I remember right, they were talking about how they they were like, "Hey, what if we made a game with where every card is busted, but they're not busted?" And that's exactly how I would describe Mindbug, because in this game, you have only, I think, 10 cards in your deck. It's completely random. If you're doing first contact, I have all 3. And there's actually more coming in a nice organizer as well. But in this game, you have 10 cards, and you have a certain number of cards in your hand. And on your turn, you either play a card or you activate a card. And all of them have keywords on them. There's not many keywords. There's tough, meaning it can't, it takes 2 hits to kill. Poisonous means it always kills, things like that. But the number on them is just their strength. If you attack something with a higher strength than you, or with a higher strength than what you're attacking, it kills it. That's it. There's no health or defense or anything like that. But all of them have really good powers. But what makes this game extremely fascinating and tactical is every player has 2 mind bug cards. And whenever someone plays a card, you then have the window to decide if you want to use one of your mind bugs to take that card from them. And so a good example is the Oxalotl Healer. It says when it's poisonous and when you play it, you gain 2 life points. Oh, you also only have 3 life points, but you can go higher than that. So if I played that and I had 3, I'd go up to 5. But if you take it, if you spend one of your mind bugs, it's as if you played it. So you don't just take it for its poisonous and its healing, you get its playability as well. So and I you can't mind bug a mind bug, so you can't like count I can't counter to keep it. So whenever you have your cards, you're looking at it, you're like, this is amazing. But then you look up and then you realize your opponent still has 1 mind bug left, and you're like, are they gonna take this? Like every card you want to play. So a lot of the strategy comes in for you trying to bait your opponent by playing still a really good ability that would suck for your opponent to have, but it's less important to you. And the fact that the games are quick, like if someone just gets a really good synergy, that doesn't really matter what you mind bug from them and they still win. Oh well, shuffle, like there's no seeding, you just shuffle the cards together, deal out 10 to each player and start over. Um it's just this game is like so goofy on its surface level, but it has so much depth to it with ease of play that I mean, I could see this being higher next year. Um, because this is another game, kind of like War Chest, that I can take to a bar, take to. I mean, I keep saying a hookah lounge because that's one of my favorite places to relax and game. Um, you can take this there, and I've played, I don't know, so many games in a row of this that, and the 3 boxes are pretty much similar, but they introduce new keywords and new mechanisms. Like one expansion or one standalone box adds evolutions. There's some cards that you can play that their ability is to evolve and get a higher power one. Um, but those are disgusting, so you don't want to play them because someone might mind bug it from you, and then they get to evolve it. It's such a brilliant idea. I love it. So I'm gushing about it. I'm actually sad it's at 71 because I really do like this game a lot. Um, so that's my 71.
You should add that one to the list too, because I wouldn't mind playing that again. Because I don't know when I'll get a chance to play it with Chad, but
Yeah. And I know I almost missed it because I don't know what happened, but they have like I think it's called Fruit Ninja Mind Bug. Um, yeah, whatever is coming out. Oh, Battlefruit Kingdom is what it is. That's like another box, but then they have like other mini expansions that are getting added and a storage solution, which
Mhm.
is really what I'm excited about because I hate that Dale of Merchants did the exact same thing. I hate individual standalone shit. Like it bugs me so much. I'm so glad Final Girl has that big box to store it all. Because if I had individual box, oh man, I'd have a meltdown. I almost
My final girl stuff is sitting in Kansas City. It has been for like 4 days. So I'm ticked
really.
off. I was supposed to get it Friday, and then it didn't show up
Oh,
Friday. It didn't show up. It still says it's in transit. So I'm just like pissed off because I
you're
wanted
not
it
gonna
this weekend.
play it.
I know, but it looks. I want it on my nice shelf.
Yeah. I don't even know where mine's at.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you're looking for a wacky 1v1 card game, which I'm sure there's teams and shit, but mainly 1v1 card game, but has some layers to it. Um, that's because this gives me what Epic wanted to be. But as we've now seen, Wise Wizard Games, we're just like, oh well, it's no surprise that game is shit. Yeah, this gives me that same vibe where everything is good. Because I've played games. I know I've talked about this game way more than I should, but I've played games where one card, it was like, and the art is just wild. It's like crossbreeds of animals. I played one card where it was like a shark that completely dominated the game for me, and another game where I'm like, this is fucking useless. So that's just how dynamic this game can be. Anyway, that's my 71 Mind Bug.
All right. Good choice. Well, my number 71 was 89 last year. I've actually gotten it played quite a bit this year, which is why it's going back up. I actually played it with you. Um, the last time you came over to my house and we played. Um, but it's an out of print game, so it's a little hard to find, especially the expansions. And that is
Oh,
Space
nice.
Hulk Death Angel, the card game. Um, this one,
I was wondering where this was gonna be because we had just played it.
yeah, I've been playing it solo a lot, and then I went through and since I got my 3D printer, I printed off a deal that rises the box lid up so I can put sleeve cards in there
Yeah.
now and all that stuff. Um but with this game, I mean, this is it plays well. It plays up to 5 players, but I'm solo. You can play with a couple of units. 2 players, fine too. I mean, it runs the
Yeah.
same how we did it. But anyway, so this one, like I said, is out of print. So because Fantasy Flight and Games Workshop kind of divorced,
I mean,
but
Fantasy Flight and everyone
yeah,
divorced pretty much.
yeah. So, but this one is neat because it's just all cards, and you put all your Death Angel squads in a row, and there's positioning so you can move around. Their facing is important because you could get flanked, by the Gene Stealers and stuff. So you want to kind of mess with your arrangement of that. There actually is range in this. Some people have range where they can shoot certain spots away. All the while, you're kind of working your way through the Space Hulk ship, uh, and there's an objective that you're choosing that you're working towards. But every time you clear a location, then you just move on. A new location pops out. Brings in different locations that populate in there and stuff. It's just there's a lot of cool stuff going on with it. Um,
Or a simple card game too, yeah.
yeah, and that damn dice though. Um,
I th it went relatively well when
yeah, I
we
mean, yeah,
played.
the
We gave
dice wasn't
ourselves a
cocked.
give
Yeah,
ourselves a free reroll,
yeah,
but
but
overall, like I'd say without the flubbing, it still didn't dick us over that bad. It
no,
was just it dicked us over when we needed it to not do that.
right. But anyway, but what's cool with this is, I mean, there's I think 4 little mini expansions for this. I have 1 or 2 of them, I think, but I paid a lot of money just to get those 20 some cards. Um, so now I have a second base game of this now. That's because
Yeah.
I when I got the expansion, I had to buy the base game from the guy too. So,
Oh yeah.
but so I have a second version of it now that I need to get rid of. But anyway, I eventually will probably try to pick up those other expansions too. There's another one that adds another unit or set of units, and then there's another one that adds in the Tyranids and stuff.
Oh nice.
But yeah, I mean, this one's super super nice. It's a small footprint for the most part, um, and that thing I printed, the roast the box, made it nice because then I can actually, because you couldn't sleeve the cards and put them in the little box that this came in. So now I'm able to store them like vertically and sleeved and everything. But yeah, I mean, this one's I had all that's the saddest thing with this is I had this and like all the expansions back in the day when it was still widely available. And for some one reason or another, I don't know why. I guess it was before I really started getting into the solo stuff, maybe,
Yeah.
and I sold it all off. And then it's like, shit,
It's
I
like
had all
dang
that
it, yeah.
damn stuff because I'm going to spend like $100 just to get these like
Yeah. 20
70
cards.
cards. You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, the thing is like because since we played it, I had previously played the new Warhammer Space Marine game that was released, and then I watched the secret level
right?
episode of Warhammer, and now I understand more of the universe, and that enhances this game a lot and makes you feel like a badass whenever you're running and just mowing down alien after alien while you're single file through the corridor. It's for what it looks like. I mean, it is a super solid game. So yeah, I had a good time. A
Yep,
lot better time than that other horrible game we played after this. What was it? Oh, Unmatched. Not Unmatched. Oh God,
Undaunted.
Undaunted.
Oh,
Yeah.
Also, I printed off it's a 3D printed dashboard that fits up here, all this top part.
Oh,
And it
cool.
has like recessed deals that you can set, like the left quadrant, right quadrant, all
Yeah.
this stuff. And then it has like a place where you can stand up the where you're at, like your
Oh,
location and all that
that's
stuff.
hot.
It's pretty neat. But
Hot.
anyway, yeah, this one's top notch. If you can find it, nab it.
Yeah, cool. All right, everyone. That was our segment of 80 through 71. I hope you enjoyed and stick around for the rest of our top 100. Let us know what you think of these games in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.